Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Where are you right now?
I am sitting in suburban Seattle, where I've been living now for 20 years.
20 years you've been out there.
I've been in exile. Yeah. So, basically, I don't know how much I'm going to talk about this, but as opposed to on live, or it has some play into my life, which we can touch when we're talking for real. Basically, I went to school back east. I went to You're from back east, right?
Yeah, I went to Carroll. You went to Malvern.
Yeah, I went to Malvern. Then I went to Franklin and Marshall. Then I worked I went through rehab. Then I got a job selling fucking bags, which I thought I would be done with in a matter of, hip and cool, be out of there. 35 years later, I was still in it. So I ended up working for this big company out of Milan who did all the Starbucks bags and filming machines. And then there was a company in Seattle that, you ever seen that little belly button that's in a coffee bag? You squeeze it, you smell the coffee come out.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, there was a company in Seattle that had just gotten a patent on that, but it wasn't working. So they had gotten bought by investors, blah, 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 blah. They brought me to Seattle. And then they went bankrupt, the investors. So now I don't know what the fuck is going on. But before they go bankrupt, they say to me, we're going to fire you because you're an asshole and you're not selling enough shit. And you should sell to Starbucks. And, I'm like, that used to be my account. You're not going to sell to them. I could just tell you. I know the price points. I know the account. Lo and behold, a new group of investors come in and say, well, we do want you. And then slowly they made me the president. Then they made me the CEO. They had given me 10% to start. And then, after a while, I was like, well, you guys got your money. I paid the bank back. Then I paid them back. And I was like, well, why don't you go away now? You got your money. They still own 25% of it. So I borrowed money and bought them out. In the end, at about 47, I owned the business at 47, but we still had debt to pay. So about 50, I was free and clear, and then, it's really weird. The first time I was able to take a chunk of money out, I actually called my accountant and I was like, hey, dude, I got this money in my account. What do I do with it? And he said, well, you put it in your bank account. And I'm like, am I allowed to do that? Like, is that like, do I get in trouble? And he's like, no, that's why you have a business, Mark. I just never thought that I would have that type of sick. I always just thought I'd be selling shit, and busting my balls in recovery, which I knew that's what I was going to, I knew I was going to, well, I hoped I would stay clean. And then basically that's what happened, and I like, then in 1959, when I turned 59, this bigger company called and was like, we want to buy you. And I didn't want to sell. So for a few years, they kept pecking at me. And I had the benefit of making a very good living. And I have 5 daughters. So I was living out there with my wife. Life was going great. And I was just like, they gave me a number and I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing. I also don't believe you. I think you're going to start, trying to dick me over and cut me out, somehow. Or the way they do it in buyouts like that is they do a a holdback, which would mean, we give you X amount, but we hold a quarter back. I don't know if you know that, but you have to earn it out. And I was like, I'm not doing that. No way. And so they gave me the money. And
imagine that.
Yeah. So I'm like, fuck this. So they gave me the money. So then I've been effectively, I'd say 50% retired. I still consult for the previous company. All the guys that are there are all guys that made money with me. So they're all, obviously combination of need me and a combination of just, making sure I stay in the game.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I met. Well, how do you start this thing, by the way?
Well, we're going to start. We're going to start now in a second. Is that cool?
Okay. I didn't know whether then, I went to college with Pete, and we were he always seemed like the cool party guy, like he would have weed, and you'd go over there and he'd always have this beautiful setup with cool music, and like, wow, this is where you want to hang out. And never knew him to be, I mean, he consumed a lot, but he never looked drunk. Like I always looked drunk, or I did blackouts.
Yeah.
I mean, I played lacrosse all 4 years. I got stoned before every
This
practice.
is at Franklin and Marshall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played at Malvern, where I was, well, anyway, I graduated there 2-time All-State, but you got to remember it's white boys land, and it's not exactly, but it was fun. And then I went to F&M and started for 4 years. Then I played on this little club team outside of Philly.
Hey, remember Kobe Bryant was all mainline times. I mean, come on, his first team all mainline times, just like me and you.
I squared him up in Narbs a bunch of times. Do you ever play in Narberth down there?
I did. I sure did. Yeah, played in Narberth League. Look at you with the Espresso. All right, let's start. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready to rock and roll. You do it.
Okay, so Mark, I'll give an introduction after you and I talk. So we're going to get right into it. I already feel like I know you, and I kind of do through.
Yeah, we do.
Through different people, and of course through our way of life now and how we got here. What is your sobriety date? 37 years you're sober. So what's your date?
February 19th, 1986.
Okay, so
long time.
Well, that's impressive. You grew up outside of Philadelphia. What was your childhood like?
Well, I'm one of 8 kids from a big Irish Catholic family in Delco. My dad had his own business, so he did, pretty well, to which he poured all his money into getting us educated. So I went to Waldron Academy, fancy all boys school. Then I went to Malvern Preparatory School for boys, and then Franklin Marshall College. But probably one of the most impactful things for me was my parents were loving parents. Good Irish Catholic. My mom was a teetotaler. My dad drank, but not like he was never off the charts. But don't get me short. There's a bunch of guys who were alkies in a big Irish Catholic family. So, no shortage of those. And then where was I going here? Oh, so my 4 older brothers were intensely good academic students and athletes. One went his MBA from Harvard, another one a neurologist, next MBA from Penn, next MBA from NYU. So I think my sister above me did well. My 2 sisters below me did well. And I think kind of at some psychological level, well, now I've talked to therapists till the cows come home. But anyway, at the psychological level, I always felt as though, how do you keep up with that?
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe inherently, like I think is true through our whole family, but a sense of just like, I'm not good enough. I have to do better. Everybody's watching me. My ego feels like it's shrinking every time somebody sees me. And that's where I didn't even think about it as a young kid, that I was just getting fucked up, having fun, and never looking upon it as any, look, if I could continue to play sports, I could continue to get through college, I, had the girlfriends, had all the cool things, all the bells and whistles, that nothing must be wrong with me. My senior year in high school, my senior year in college, my very best friend from Franklin and Marshall, we played lacrosse together. He died suddenly of just some sort of a massive drug intake. And
what drug was he doing? You remember?
We were drinking a lot. He was getting high a lot, and then he started doing a lot of cocaine. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't. What happened was he had genetically a bad heart. Mm-hmm. That was it. And something happened where all of a sudden he started having a lot of pain in his heart. Went into the hospital. Boom, died that night. So that sent me off the rails. So right away started picking up more. Then my mom got sick with cancer. So, a lot of people that I knew, just because your mom dies doesn't mean you should be drinking yourself into oblivion. I did. And it kept going and it kept going. And then finally she said something to me when she was really sick. And it was along the line. Well, no, I know what it was. It was like, don't make me watch you have a life like so many in this family. I've watched, alcoholism and drugs fuck up things forever and a day. So of my own accord, I went to Malvern Rehab, which was kind of like, I'll go. I remember interviewing with the guy and saying, hey, I'm just checking out rehabs. You know what I mean? I'm just going around, seeing which one might be best for me, And I remember him saying it was like 4 days before Christmas, and he's like, I said, let me check back after the New Year. And he said, do you think you'll make it to the New Year? And I just sat there and I said, I don't know. And he's like, well, why don't you just come in tomorrow? And I did. I just went in.
Isn't that amazing? See, those are the kind of, that is like a sliding doors moment or whatever you want to call it, a God moment, yep. Right? I always say a guy told me to go to treatment because that was part of his story. I was in and out. And this guy was like, you should probably go somewhere to rehab because that's what I did. He was like my sponsor at the time. And I always describe it as like the smallest like window opened up, like God window. And I just kind of fell over to the other side and my whole life changed. And I very easily could have been like, that's not for me and just continue to go. Because I didn't go into that dinner thinking I'm going to make a huge decision tonight to go to treatment, but that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I think, I guess the other one they say is you have this flash for a, same as you, but for a second, you get to see really who you are. You get this flash. It's like in a mirror, and you go, oh my God, I'm a fuck up. I can't get out of this. I feel I'm depressed. I got to the point where in my mind, I just thought, if this is what it is, it's either going to be long and horrible or I just want to die. It just was too dark, and I was living with Pete at the time. And Pete knew I was partying too much.
So Pete, can you give me a last initial, Pete?
K.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Pete K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so Pete K, basically, he saw what I was up to, but didn't understand the severity of it. Nobody did. So I went into rehab, and then the chatter around town was, when I got out, was a lot of people were like, they thought I was going to like narc on. They didn't care about me being clean. I just realized they'd be like, dude, did they mention anybody that you knew? And I'm like, no. They didn't give a fuck about you. They just want, me. So I got out and I did the whole AA thing and then boom, back to detox, picked up. And of course, like they say with so many people, just took off like a bat out of hell.
Well, so let's go backwards. Your first drink, do you remember it all? Like kind of how that impacted you, what came over you? Was there a shift?
I remember. Oh yeah. I remember, I think it was 9th grade. So this was the first one, but it wasn't as effective as the other ones. The first one was going to a wedding in like 9th grade up in Connecticut and blackout puked the whole thing. too really young to see it other than an intimidating thing. But I did want to try it again. And then by then I was pretty much off and running. Started getting high all the time. Went down to the Jersey Shore, started to be a surfer, and competed as a surfer. And that's a massive party crowd, so just getting fucked up all summer, like, high 3-4 times a day, chasing the endless summer, whatever the fuck I was doing. But so, then I got out of high school again, still now cranking up. And I always said to myself, oh, I'll never do cocaine or anything other than weed and marijuana. Well, by the end of my freshman year, I'm cranking on cocaine. I love it. I'm not a daily user, but like the weekends were just blotto.
What was that like in that time? I mean, sometimes I almost like the addict in me is almost somewhat envious because that was a huge thing for me, cocaine, right? Like, and it seems like in the 80s, it was just everywhere. Now, I could have gone out like your friend. I had a heart problem. I could have gone out like your friend, but for the grace of God, I didn't. And there is and it's a dark, it's hard to describe it, but it's somewhat alluring for me when I think about the 80s and cocaine addiction and athletes who were taking it. I found that so interesting how people just gave their whole lives and careers over to this powder. Especially as a kid, I didn't understand it until I did it, and then I was able to compute the whole deal. But when you were a freshman in college, paint that picture for us. What is that like?
Well, I mean, a freshman in college in mind you, I'm old, 1978. So, you're still coming off of a lot of drugs. People are getting fucked up on drugs and, still kind of moving out of the acid crowd, which I was kind of, no, I'm not doing that. So blow was just anybody, it was just like you go to a party and it would be like, do you want to have a drink? Do you want to, you want to hit a line? And at that time it was kind of like the new wonder drug, and at first I was like, no. Well, then I did it. It was like, woohoo, that's some good shit. And just started doing it more and more. And it just became part and parcel to anything you did every night. But, and then I slid into, acid, shrooms, Quaaludes, they called them at the time, which are just high powered benzos. Some meth, but that always was a little too, like burnt my nose and I didn't like it and it was too intense. Cocaine was better. If you're going to get laid, you had to have cocaine. I mean, that was just, no girl's going to go anywhere with you if you don't have, a pile of blow with you. So that was the lifestyle. It didn't seem remotely weird. No, it didn't seem remotely weird. It just was what we did. And much like whatever. Now, when I got out of college and then I went to rehab, then I ran into true cocaine addicts. Like then I'm like, whoa, these cats are going at it, all day, every day. I thankfully never had that habit. Mine was drinking and getting high, basically all day, every day.
What were the consequences for you that led you to go, try to research and find the best rehab? First time?
I think number one, the loss of girlfriends. That was a huge one. I had a really, great girlfriend who I actually called and did an amends to after 15 years because I didn't trust myself talking to her. I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm married and somehow she's going to catch me back up in her spider web. So I just was like, nah, I'm not doing that one. But that one, multiple girlfriends, a huge car accident. I was hammered in Atlantic City. You got to the table, you could drink all night. It's free. Driving home in the rain, drive my car right into a toll booth. I mean, at 50 miles an hour. Came tumbling out of that, unharmed. Obviously got arrested, got all that bullshit, but that stuff didn't extradite to Pennsylvania. So it was just a Jersey thing. So if you got a lawyer, it would give you, they would get your penalty would be from September to May. Nobody was at the Jersey Shore then. So it was like perfect. So you just stayed in Philly, got drunk and never mind, just don't go over the bridge. Don't go over Ben Franklin Bridge when you're hammered. And, so that was it. I get, obviously got arrested. Oh, and I remember I got sentenced in the Jersey, Ocean City, New Jersey courthouse. And then I'm standing here getting censored, and they say, "We think this guy's drunk right now." And I'm like, well, I'd been out to, of course, 5 a.m., got the hearing at 10. No sense in going in all wide awake. So they go, let's give him a breathalyzer. So they give me a breathalyzer, and lo and behold, I'm blowing, I don't know what it was, but a whole bunch. So they say, you got to sit here and wait until you get your alcohol level down. To which my lawyer comes into me and he says, you know what I love about guys like you? He goes, you got a dad with some money. I'm just going to sit around every couple of years. I'm going to get you. He goes, you are a stream of money for me. You're a fuck up and I'm a lawyer and you're right here where you're going to fuck up. So just wanted to thank you for that. And that, of course, that didn't impact me that much. I just was like, jerk off, typical old lawyer, look an asshole, so I took off, and of course, not supposed to drink in Jersey, 2 6-packs, big bong hits, head on back to Philly. And so that didn't seem odd to me. It just didn't seem like it was weird.
What was your first experience like at that rehab? Did you feel like, you mentioned you went to treatment, you did the AA thing for a little bit, but then boom, right back to detox. Did you pick anything up in that first trip?
Oh, yeah, I did. I mean, first off, like a lot of us after rehab started, where I looked around and was like, oh, who are these fucking weirdos? I realized, oh, okay. I really enjoyed it. I really did by the time I got out of there. Then I was crying. Oh, then my mother finally passed away about 2 weeks before. Yeah. So then it was just like, well, fuck it. Katie bar the door. And I just went out. I remember went into North Philly, bought all my drugs wherever on the street, the whole time I was stopping at phone booths and either call my girlfriend or my brothers and just saying, oh, I'm in North Philly. I'm getting completely fucked up. This is after my mom dies. My dad is in complete despair. So I'm just, needless to say, that added to the ungodly guilt. Then when I went into detox, I never had that kind of guilt, depression, self-hatred. That was nothing compared to rehab. And my brother Dan, who was a doctor, had talked to the doctor and said, what's wrong with him? And he said, at this moment, I think we can't determine because he's just detoxing and he's just alcoholically depressed. To which when that cleared, I felt normal. Well, until later in my life. But yeah, I felt all like, woo, I'm back in the game. I can play this thing. And then I started going to AA every night, religiously. Someone say, oh, because you had to. No, not because I had to. Yes, I did have to, but I liked it. It gave me juice and I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed it, every night, so I just pounded away on the things.
How did you find that gear to sell out and to go all in?
Well, first off, I was an addict.
Yeah.
And then I had this friend of mine who was AA guy who was pretty successful making money as a stockbroker. And we're walking along one day and he goes, so are you selling? I said, yeah, I'm selling. He goes, are you reading every book out there for sales and listening to every tape? Because if you want to do this thing, you got to smoke the ball or don't bother. So I took that as a kind of a challenge. So I learned selling as like a real skill. And the first thing I did was they said, I had to do cold calling. So I read all these cold calling books and I just was like, my sponsor was saying, you just be a worker amongst workers. You shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear anything about other people, nothing, just work. And I mean, I worked my nuts off. I just had something to prove. And just slowly over 12 years, became the hotshot top guy in sales.
And so this, all this time you're working through, and this is after now 1989, right? After you are sober for up until this point.
Yeah, 86.
86. Okay. So 86.
Don't get my date wrong.
Sorry,
Jesus Christ,
37
I get on
years.
this thing for crying out loud.
37 years. Yeah, trust me. 3 years is anybody knows me. If somebody's listening to this that has, hang on for a second, that has 3 months or 30 days, 3 years is an eternity, and it is, and it's a great ride. But yeah, no, we don't want to take 3 years.
No, what I would say is to anybody who's new, everything's relative. Your first day is a fucking eternity.
Yeah.
To you. 30, I mean, at one day, you think 15 days is a miraculous amount. Each jump.
I can remember, Mark, sitting in treatment. I went to Karen and just Xing off the days on the calendar, like 4 days in treatment without a drink, without drugs. I remember being like, holy shit, this is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it seemed like my whole life had been, I was surrounded, right? I just orbited around this thing, this addiction. And finally I was like realizing that I was free of it. And I wasn't so much like, I can't believe how long these days are, but I was like, I just can't believe I'm putting days together, and I don't care where I am. It didn't matter, like it was a special deal.
Yeah, no, I speak at a rehab, had for like 3 years, once a month. And, basically talk to this group of about 100. And I just remember looking out sometimes, and in my mind, I thought, if I came back in a year, how many of these people would be clean? And in my mind, I thought 5% best. I mean, and the hit rate is low, not to discourage people, but I mean, you do this for a long time and you get people who come in, they're all, I read the big book. I know more than fucking everybody. And, they're Bible bump thumpers or whatever the hell they are. And then they're out. And, you've been in it. It's just, so you're hoping. That scared me. I just thought, oh my God, So thankfully for, I think, a lot of addicts, once I started like actually getting up at 7:30 and going to work and then leaving at maybe 6 o'clock because I was busting my balls, maybe later, what I started realizing was not that hard to pass these guys and gals. They don't work anything like I do. And I'm doing it with my left hand. I'm like, I'm awake. I'm ready to go. I'm intensely involved in it. I'm happy to make friends within my social group. But listen, I had friends, but you're selling. Fuck them. I'm not going to steal, but I'm here to sell. I'm not here to, sit around and talk about the Eagles game for an hour and a half, So that, I think that concept of it being a long time, it is. But like they say, what do you got? You can only get there one day at a time.
Yeah.
Can't jump to 10 when you're at 1.
So what's happening to you when you're going to these meetings, though? I mean, like, how are you starting to change in recovery?
I would say first and foremost, just kind of realizing that, my take is all you do all your life is work on the first step. I mean, I can say with some comfort now, I don't, because I just don't feel that urge. But early in it, it was a lot of,
this is admitting you were powerless over alcohol.
Yeah, totally. Came to believe that power greater than myself admitted we were powerless over alcohol and we could not manage our lives. Basically we're unable to manage our lives. I came to that belief. And one of them was, again, had this girlfriend, kept breaking up with her, broke up, back together, on, off, like.
And this is in sobriety.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Me too.
And it was like a spider web. I couldn't, I'd pull this off, be some stuck here, and then be sucking me back in. And anybody who's new in the program, if you think you're unique in that, these relationships are, many of them, massively flawed. And, maybe some of them can recover, but, you're not right. They're not right. High mortality rate in that that mortality in the relationship, and highly dysfunctional, and she was still partying. So that really made me dive into AA more, because I would read the big book. That would make me feel good. I reel the steps. It communicated with me. It just, my brain was that way. I was like, ooh, this shit makes sense. And then going to AA for me, and I think this is critical, I ended up with 3 close friends, and we just went to meetings all the time together. Just be like, where are you going tonight? Where are you going? And then we had a little rotation. Here's where we go. Here's where we go. And of course, it's some of them, to be honest with you, a little bit of good looking, trying to look at good chicks. That was always a fun thing.
That kept me coming back. There. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. It didn't hurt my chances early on of meeting attendance.
Yeah. Well, with all due respect to the young ladies out there, and I'm sure men, a few of my friends were dating some recovering girls, and they be crazy. I'm sure the guys were feeding it, but holy shit, that was stay away if you can. Most young guys just can't.
Yeah.
You're not, guys, don't get in a relationship for a year. It's like, are you kidding me? A year? A year? It's just not going to happen. I'm going to go out and look, I'm not getting fucked up. That doesn't mean below the waist got shut off. I mean, come on, the other thing that really helped me with getting clean, and maybe other people didn't. I've exercised every day of my life, probably since 8th grade, between sports to this day. I got sweatpants on underneath this. We get done this, I go to the gym. It has been, it's just been like my life. And aside from, I'm a big history reader, but when anybody comes in, I'm always like, go out and walk for a mile.
Yes.
Go do something. And if you're a big fatso, well, then take your big fat body out and walk. A lot of people get into something after AA and start of AA. It's not uncommon that they abuse it. For a while there, I was abusing exercise. I'd like get up and swim in the morning.
Me too.
Then right after work, I'd go out and pound out, and it'd be just like, okay, just the endorphin. Oh, the endorphin high it was like magical, man. It's like a drug, and it's not harmful. And I still say, anybody new, anybody anywhere, pick up an exercise regimen, pick up something, because it's for here.
Yes, it is for
people
your brain.
Always say, for the brain. People would say, oh, dude, you're such a healthy guy. And I'm like, no, I'm fucking insane. This is the only way to turn it off. And I imagine for you,
100%.
That half hour, an hour after working out is just like beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I still do it. I still do it now. Love steam baths, dude. Steams. Oh,
they're awesome.
I love a steam. Yeah. So what else is up?
So no, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your relationships with women as you continued on in sobriety. To me, this is a hot topic for me because honestly, Mark, it kept me drunk for a long time. I was convinced that I would not be able to have relationships with members of the opposite sex if I was not drunk or under the influence of something that could chill me out. And then, of course, there was ones where I felt, well, now I need to be up all night. So what can bring me up? And I stayed drunk on that complete bullshit idea for a long time. And then when I got sober, it was really hard to start to forge relationships because I had been under the influence for so long. I had been anesthetized. I didn't have any real feeling of what was going on with me or what emotions I was having because I was always drunk and then getting sober. Now it's kind of a beautiful thing. You still have regular concerns like any other person, but I'm able to say, wow, that really was bullshit. Like what I was telling myself. How about you? Like, what did you experience?
Okay. First off, here's what I used to do. Say I go into the gym and I see a nice girl I like. Okay. I'd walk in. Well, I can't talk to her because if I talk to her, then she knows I'm going to like her. But if I ignore her, maybe she doesn't know I ignore her. She's talking to some other guy. Obviously, that guy's better than me. And I'm not going to talk to him because he's a jerk off. And if I talk to him, he's probably going to try and tag the girl I like. So fuck it all. So I'm just going to leave. That's where my mind was ripping. Now on the outside, I got a good personality. I look great, but I didn't know what to do. So I ended up dating. And dating was horrible because, again, how do you get something started? How do you not get something started? Not also the thing that was really crazy for me was intimacy, like trying to kiss a girl or kissing her. The sense of just this like, wow, it actually has a more profound effect on me. And plus, sometimes I'm significantly more horny than I thought. I'm like, wow, man, I do want to get laid. And then finally, I met this girl at the gym, Laura Murray chick. And so we start going out and she just starts to really like me, like really like me, and we become intimate. And I start to realize this is serious, like it's not like a win. It's like, oh my God. And I vividly remember thinking to myself, well, this can't be possible that she would love me. It doesn't make sense. I'm not worthy of that. And I remember distinctly, and if anybody's in a relationship and new in sobriety, this is fucking hard to do. I remember thinking to myself, do not fuck this up, Mark. Do not let your crazy brain ripping along, coming up with a reason that either she fucked up or you're fucked up, and then ruin it. And that doesn't mean I didn't look at girls and want to get laid. I'm 64. I still pray it doesn't leave me. But, I honestly do. But good Lord, anybody who's young out there, let me tell you what, the face may look a little old, but the desire ain't gone. Like my dad once said to me, I know I'd like them. I just don't know if they have the patience to help me. So anyway, then I got married. And
to the girl from the gym you met?
What's that?
To the girl, the Lower Merion girl?
Yeah, she went to the Ardmore Y.
Okay, yeah.
She was the girl who took your ID. So every time I would give her my ID, I would like not look at her. I do everything to try and act like I don't know what I was doing. I was just trying to fuck it all up. And then she just like loved me. And then I didn't get in the way. I wanted to get married. It wasn't like I had to get married. Well, we wanted to. And that was equally funky because start living with a woman and your world changes, they keep shit clean, they like want to have like a couch that like is all pretty. I go into the bedroom, there's this gorgeous comforter on it with these lovely little pillows. I remember lying down on it once, be like, woo, this is it. Check me out. Keep the bathroom clean. I'm a fucking pig, I clean the toilet when it like doesn't flush anymore, the shower is just a shit show until now she's got it beautiful, and I'm like, wow, that's all the silly things, but women, no saying against women here in today's environment, women like to nurture. Pardon me here, women like to nurture men. And it's a beautiful feeling. It's just their natural instinct. They go out to a store. Think about this. Would you ever do this for a girl? They go out to a store and they come back and they go, oh, I found this shirt you might like. And I'm like, why are you wasting time looking for a shirt for me? I mean, I'm not buying any shirts for you. And she's just like, well, I was thinking about you. And I'm like, wow, that's very anti-male. Mm-hmm. To think that way. And
it comes naturally.
It was, and that's where I realized she's a female. She just likes to nurture, and I can confirm that's the case with having 5 daughters. that, they are nurturing, So anyway, that was the earliest stage of intimacy.
How proud are you?
Here's another one.
Yeah.
Getting to know guys. Guys are harder. Like we would play pickup hoops at Ardmore and Narberth a lot, where I would be playing lacrosse. And a guy would seem like a nice guy. So you'd be like, hey, dude, what's going on? And da 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 da. But then how do you become a dude friend when you're clean? It just doesn't mesh up, when do you call and like ask them on a fucking date, or you know what I mean? How do you make it happen? And for me, even to this day, male to male relationships I just think people should realize in the program, that's why you get somebody like a sponsor. That's why you try and bust your balls to make a friend. You go to the same meeting, and it may take a long time, but you'll start bumping up against dudes you've seen a lot. And then it takes a long time to want to do anything alone with them.
I totally agree. It's like, it's a practice. It's so interesting because you mentioned it earlier about developing relationships with 3 dudes you really liked. You would go to meetings all the time together. You'd hang out but that doesn't happen overnight. The commitment to AA fosters a positive environment with where you can make friends, where you can be a man among men, a boy among, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's super. It's all my really good relationships in AA rooms came from rooms that I went to very often. That 562 group in Haverford.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of grew up in sobriety in that room. I mean, I went every day for probably 3 years, and it changed me because I noticed the relationships I was developing with people I didn't even know through sobriety, and the commitment they had to being my friend, right? The love they showed me back with no strings attached was really cool.
Yeah, and then I know that you meet, like you find out you're meeting some older men, and you're like, oh, I never thought I would really hang with some or have any communication with some old fart like 65, which is like what I am now. I'd be like, what the fuck? Why am I even going to talk to this guy? And then the other thing I think for people who are coming into AA or new in AA, go to meetings and they used to call it a 10 and 10 club, 10 early, 10 late. Get there 10 minutes before, stick 10 minutes late. Now, the thing is that you're not just going to walk in and say, oh, it's so open, everybody loves each other. No, when you walk in there, they don't know who the hell you are. You may just by stroke of, you may not have anybody say hi to you. It's a little club. They end up, people are chatting around. They really don't notice the new person initially. If you go in there, raise your fucking hand, say I'm a new guy or gal, and just feel like a douche because you don't know what you're saying. It's just douche chills the whole time, and then then you start meeting some people. Then here's the other one. I never did it. I did one AA dance. Okay, now I'm not dissing on AA dances, but I remember a group of guys saying, "Hey man, there's an AA dance this Saturday. Do you want to go to it?" I remember thinking to myself, who the fuck wants to go to a dance where everybody's clean and I'm going to stand there like an asshole? So I go to one. It was horrible for me. It was horrible. Felt like back in high school, just standing against the wall. So I was like, okay, that's out. I never got into, but I know a lot of guys who did the softball team. For some reason, my athletic dudes were not there. I maintained my close contact aside from partying with NARBs, lacrosse. That was where I got my kind of
interaction with people that were out there too, right?
Yeah. And you'd always bump into some AA guy. Back then it was like, whisper, whisper, whisper.
Mm-hmm.
Today it's much more, kind of, it's open. People are much more like, yeah, I'm in recovery. Speaking of which, remember this when you're new in AA. Some people will be out talking to people around like, oh, yeah, I'm in recovery. I'm in recovery. Like people are all proud of you. The fact of the matter is, people are not putting silver stars on people's chests who are out working around the world. you know, you don't know what they're thinking. My sponsor told me that he shared it openly with an employer, and then the HR department. Well, all of a sudden, the HR lady is dissing him, you know, really not giving him the time of day. He later finds out that she had been married to an alcoholic and been beaten. So here he is thinking he's getting a star on his chest, and basically at HR, he's getting just pummeled further into the ground. So that's just forewarning. I never share. For me, I never shared it in my sales job for 10 years. I didn't trust those pricks. You know,
they might use it against you, right?
Yeah. Oh, give Mark Howley the JFG or whatever, the big account. Well, okay, as long as he doesn't start drinking again. Well, yeah. I didn't mean to say that, you know. And then they're talking shit on you, and you want to. Some people have to. They've been so damaged, you know, and older. Thankfully, I wasn't that. You know, I was younger. I didn't have to. You know, I didn't want my peers to know.
A couple more things.
In fact, my wife. Go ahead.
No, your wife.
You go. This. Oh, my wife found out from some guys around town and went to Malvern that she was going out with me. She said, "Hey, man, do you know he doesn't drink anymore?" And she'd be like, "Well, yeah." And they're like, "You might want to watch him. You might want to watch him. You know, he's a little weird." You know, so I was like, all right, well, whatever. So that's the end of my intimacy discussion.
Well, I want to ask you about a professional discussion. I want to start. We don't have too much more time, but I got.
Yeah, go.
I want to ask you about your wild success as a salesman, and the balance. My old sponsor used to say, "Don't let the gifts of sobriety get in the way of the gifts of sobriety." You know, the people that come to you and ask you questions about, hey, I'm having success in work, but I want to make sure I'm not putting recovery or AA second, because a lot of people do that, including yours truly. If something's going well, whether it's a relationship, whether it's work, and if there's excitement that's being generated, I like to stick with that, right? And put it first. And AA and recovery hops in the back seat a lot. How were you able to balance that?
It could go either way. For me, first off, I was driven for work. You know, putting a lot of time into it. When I started to have kids, definitely it fell back to maybe 2 times a week, but that's because I had 5 kids.
Yeah.
You know, the other side of it is I liked being with my kids. It wasn't like some guys, oh, I gotta go hang out. No, I wanted to be with them. I wanted to watch all the little stupid sports. I wanted to be a part of it. So I really knocked myself out on that. And so I always say it's like a teeter-totter. I always felt like, you know, sometimes I'm going too far to work. Then I'm coming too far to my kids. Then I'm coming too far to AA. You know, so it's balancing back and forth. And then every once in a while, you get it all straightened up. And then something comes along and upsets the apple cart. So that's where my primary comment about balance is. If you have kids, don't fuck it up. You know, that's all I'd say. Just don't fuck it up. You know, they need you. Men don't realize, some of them, girls and boys need their dads powerfully, you know, and you see that in AA where a dad ditches the kids for 20 years and then they want to get back with them. It's just natural. You want to get back to your biological father and mother.
Yeah, that's super interesting. But I have 2 really good friends who are in AA. One lives in South Jersey, one lives in Philly. And they each have 2 girls, and they're just kind of starting, and they're you know, sober for years, and it's a real beautiful thing to see that and to see how excited they get about their girls and time with their girls, and you experienced it too. It's like, who is this person, right? What a 180 they have done, and we get to do in this experience, right? I mean, what a privilege it is.
Yeah, it is. And I always say, man, nothing will suck all the masculinity out of you like a little girl. I mean, you'll be doing shit, painting your nails, you know, you'll be, you know, and that's just one of the coolest things. There's just a love that you didn't know you were capable of. You know, you just didn't realize it.
What do you do today to keep, you still have, I can tell it's kind of coming through your pores. You still have that light coming off you. 37 years in.
Yeah. Well, first off, the thing you're going to be on, I do a podcast, which pumps me up. I love to talk to people. And I'm looking forward to having you on. And then,
Looking forward to being on.
then what's that? Yeah, good. I'm glad, we're really famous. I mean, I'm famous. You just mentioned my name, shit goes crazy. But anyway, I do that. I consult with this company. One of the things with retirement is that I've learned is when you're cranking for 30 years and then you stop, it's really hard. That you don't realize two things. I didn't realize I used to think, oh, I'm humble, man. I don't whether I'm a CEO or owner, it's all good. Bullshit. The minute I stopped, I'm a vain motherfucker. I want to be able to say, I'm a CEO. Get out the way, and now I'm not that. And that was a kick in the teeth. Now I have open time. That's a kick in the teeth. So it took me a long time. And throughout my recovery, I wanted to tuck this in. I have battled depression and anxiety on about annually, probably every 10 years. It's episodic and it can be really nasty. And I've gotten psychiatric help. I've seen more psychologists.
How long do the episodes last, Mark?
Maybe a year.
Okay.
Because they would be tied into work. They would grind, and grind. And, my sponsor used to say, sometimes life sucks, Mark. And you know what you need to do? Just grind it out. Just grind it the fuck out. And, having been an athlete, I know what he means.
By the way, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And getting a little bit of time in sobriety, you realize that like there are cycles there. You will have things you go through for elongated stretches of time. And you're like, wait, what is this? Well, it's called life, and sometimes it's your turn.
Yeah, man, life sucks. My guy used to say, you mean there's 7 billion people in this world and you think you shouldn't get fucked up in some way? You know what the answer is? Yes. Let all the rest of them fucking suffer. It shouldn't be me, and I don't want to hear that shit. What else am I doing? I did have a depression when I got done. I had one. It just caused me great stress and strain, and I just couldn't. Who am I? What am I? I've committed myself more to AA now. I'm sponsoring 3 or 4 guys. I'm on the steering committee, vitally important, high-powered people. I'm on the board. I say you get on the board where there's 30, 20 recovering people. Yeah, fucked up board. The shit's going to go wrong.
It's not the mental board of health, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like woohoo, and I'm one of them. So I ain't helping anything. But so I think what are you saying is about an hour your time, because I didn't want to. I want to kick anything else in that you might want to talk about.
Well, I wanted to ask you. Let me see. I wanted to see as far as a turning point for you. We have a little more time. One more topic I'll hit with you.
All right.
When was there a moment? Because I think this is major for people. To kind of keep it green. Was there a moment? I love how you talk about AA. It gave me the juice, still does, that alcohol and drugs gave me. And I was like, wow, this can really work. I can do this.
Yep.
Like it works. I feel good. If it didn't make me feel good, I would be drunk somewhere. That's a guarantee.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the moment for you?
Where were the moments? Okay, here's one that was a big one. I traveled a lot for my job. And I say, and still to this day, whenever I go by a bar in the lobby, I hear like clink, clink, clink. First, I think that must be heaven. I mean, how wonderful it is. Then I walk in and have dinner off to the side, and it's just a handful of drunks on the side. But then there was finally a day where that didn't impact me. I just would walk past it like I didn't think of it as a bar. I just didn't. I was like, no, I'm just going to go to my room. I'm out. I'm an ESPN freak. So I would sit up in my room, put on my pajamas, not even my pajamas, maybe sit around with nothing on and just, get food up and be a pig, and so that were some of the ones that struck me. The other ones being able to go to parties and no longer feeling frisky, just kind of like, oh, I'm good. I don't even, I don't need an AA guy to have right beside me or right on the phone. I used to, I could just enjoy a party. And let me tell you, one thing is in sales, I made a lot of fucking money on taking people out to dinner and they got drunk. They would tell me shit they're never supposed to tell me. You know, like, Joe is going to charge 20 cents for his bag. What do you think of that? And I'd be like, well, it sounds to me like I'm going to be 19. You know, a lot of people tell you shit when you're clean. You know, you stick around a party late.
What do you tell people, guys who in that line of work are married to the illusion that I need to take people out and entertain if I'm going to be successful?
Well, first off, I'd say you don't have to as much as you think. Most customers, what they want is they want to know when they lie their head down in the bed that I'm not going to have a fucked up problem because of Mark Howley. That's what they want. That's it. They want money, period. You know, now some of them want to go out and party. Okay, you go party. Generally, I just sit there, give them the money, let them get fucking hammered on my credit card. Generally, go to bed a little early. If you're on the sales calls, you leave the credit card behind. Nobody cares if you went to bed. They don't give a shit. You know, couldn't care less. As to entertaining people or customers that were big ones, I would always say this. Listen, we all have busy lives. I would love to have dinner with you, but I don't want to intrude upon your family life. I don't want to, because sometimes you feel obliged when somebody says, oh, will you go out to dinner? You're like, oh, fuck, I should go out to dinner with him. I cut that off at the knees. You know, 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, people are like, thank you. You know, now what do? Get back to fucking work and make sure their product shows up. That's what you do. So the fuck they care.
I love it.
You know?
Right. Last thing, when somebody is new in the rooms and they say, hey, Mark, I can't stop. I continue. I'm in and out. What do you tell them?
Keep coming back. I tell them that sometimes this thing takes a long time. Some people it can't. But I know one thing. There's one group of people that will never judge you. That's people you walk in that door. Every day, even if you got fucked up. If you walked in and told me I got fucked up again last night, I'd say, well, thanks for coming back. Greatly appreciate that you walk back in these doors. And I'd say that to anybody, anywhere. If you have an addiction, and I would argue any kind, but for me, it's alcohol and drugs. This shit is your lover. It don't want to lose its lover. It is just begging you all the time to come back and, you know, hop in bed with me. And that's the death of you. You know, it's like a beautiful woman other than my wife. Okay. Bear with me. All right. She's not here. Okay. There's a few ahead of her. All right. You know, but, you know, it is. It's just like, come on, Mark, come over here. Just one last time. Let's whoop it up and have sex. You know, and you're looking at that and you're thinking, damn, that looks like a nice time, but it ain't.
You're the man, Mark. Dude, I appreciate it so much. Do me a favor. Can you send me the link to your podcast? Just send it.
Absolutely.
And I'll put it in mine.
Yeah, it has, you know, we're on YouTube now. We video.
Yeah.
So we do a lot. So are we done right now?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, do you have a minute yourself?
Yeah.
So you've got yourself doing some work with ESPN.
And that's why I asked you the question about, yeah, I do. And I've been doing it a bunch. And it's
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's no easy task.
I've always wanted to do it. And I couldn't stay out of my own way. It was, like you said, I had that lover and that's all that mattered. And, you know, it brought me down to my knees pretty much. So anyways, I turned it around and I've always been kind of like on a slow, like trying to get there, but it's sort of been like, we'll see what happens. And then I live in Waco, Texas. People found out that I used to do play-by-play because I did when I was in college and then a little bit when I first got sober. A guy asked me to do some Baylor baseball games. I did those and got like a demo reel together and then, you know, had some old relationships from working in sports. And honestly, Mark, it was a sobriety that people were like, hey, this guy has been sober for 10 years, 11 years. Like, he's a good dude. Like, take a look at this. And I've been getting more opportunities than ever now. So I'm like, you know.
So I was looking you up. You got a hit with one of the college sports networks. I'm trying to remember. Football, was it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. I fucked up. You mean? Is that what you're saying?
No. I meant a good thing. Like you hit one, like a baseball bat.
Yeah. I had like literally, I with ESPN, like I the Longhorn Network, I did well with that. Like they gave me a couple games because our buddy, former Philly, Keith Moreland, had a heart attack. So they were like, "Oh yeah, we need you to fill in for Keith." And the Longhorn Network's owned by ESPN, and so I had a good showing. Like, dude, all I could do was prepare. So I was prepared like crazy. I was terribly nervous, but I did well. It was like 3 games, and it was enough for word to travel that this guy's okay. And then you get more opportunities. And so this year I did about 25 basketball games, about 4 or 5 football games. And next year, hopefully it'll be more and more. They put you on these 1-year contracts, and that's what I'm on now. And it'll renew in August, God willing.
Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously you would aspire to eventually do it nationally.
I mean, I do it nationally. Like, so the games I do.
No, but I mean, whatever Sunday football game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that I would, I mean, I loved. I mean, that would be, that is so, think about that. The guys there's like 7, 8 guys that do that on TV. You know what I mean? Maybe more, maybe less.
You're right.
But the NFL, that's the golden goose. I would love to do it. But right now it's like college hoops, college football, college baseball, and college softball. They tell me to bet on they tell me to broadcast 2 monkeys fucking. I'll do it for them. Like whatever.
Well, probably interesting. Hey, oh my God, he's on top.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Oh no, he's beating off on his own. Hey, monkey. Stop it.
Yeah.
But so no, that's pretty cool, and I'm proud of anybody who can, it's part of my podcast is chugging. I think that 20 to 35-year-olds, I don't think that they're all this Gen Z and all. I think once you start calling generations behind you something fucked up, you're old. Now, I make observations that I think are legitimate. I think they don't have the work ethic that we used to have, when I was a younger guy. But I think most of them are bewildered. There's too many opportunities. There's too many people on social media claiming they're making $1 skrillion fucking dollars. Yeah. And they're just not. They're just not. And so I think my goal is to get someone like you on.
Yeah.
To talk about your recovery to the extent you want. And then talk about your career.
Yeah.
And say, here's what I did.
And my whole career is because of recovery. Every fucking last bit of it. I mean, there's no career without recovery because I was pounding the pavement. And then I started to open up about my recovery. I started this recovery podcast, and this is, 8, 9 years in. And people were like, hey, like what's, a friend would listen to the podcast who was like, let's say, like living on the main line in Radnor, and he'd share it with a friend of his who worked at ESPN, and so that's like, so people were like, wow, this guy like really is doing the right shit.
So you've been doing this thing for 8 or 9 years now.
Well, no, I've been sober for 12 years. I've been doing the podcast for 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. I've been doing mine for 2.
I can't wait to talk to you.
Yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
All right, I got to roll. They're going to kick me out of here.
Yeah, I know. I got to roll too. Is that a studio you got?
Yeah, I'm over here at a studio in Waco. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, adios. I do one studio too. So
you're the man, dude. Hey, text me a link, okay? And I'll send you this. This will go up next Tuesday. I'll send you the link.
Cool. I will get you a link.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, dude.
Stay clean. Stay sober.
You got it.
Later.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to the Payoff with Pete. Once again, I'm Pete Souza. And of course, we are part of the Rogue Media Network. All kinds of good podcasts you can find at roguemedianetwork.com. And of course, you can find this podcast and all those other ones wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, other spots like that.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.